Hey, Bulls Nation, it's your girl Queen Chill Mode coming at you with another Chicago Bulls free agent frenzy video. In this episode, I'll take a look at a few players that could very well fill the void in the event that we should lose Zach Lavine. Or if we do elect to maintain his services, I'll also take a look at a few players that we could add to the roster to solidify our bench and continue to help us grow and get back to the top as we continue in year 2 of our rebuild. First up, let's take a look at a player by the name of Tarik Evans. Tarik Evans is a two-guard by trade, but he is capable of playing multiple positions. He's a guy who can play positions 1 through 3 as point guard, shooting guard, and small forward. Played last season with the Memphis Grizzlies. Pretty much started the season for them as their sixth man. However, due to a great deal of injuries, and injury in particular to Michael Conley, he was able to fill in that role as the lead guard for the duration of that time that he was not available. Actually had a pretty solid season, after having multiple years where injuries kind of got the best of him. He put together one of his best seasons so far in his NBA career. Played in about 52 games, averaged about 19 points, pulled down 5 rebounds a game, dished out 5 assists, even averaged a steal a game, and had pretty solid shooting numbers, shooting 45% from the field overall and 39% from the three-point line, and of course 78% from the free throw line. This young man is an excellent ball handler. He's great at facilitating, getting the ball out to his teammates, as well as initiating offense. He's an excellent shot creator, capable of creating shots for himself as well as his teammates. He's also a reliable three-point shooter, and I think that's one of the reasons why I think he would be a guy that the Chicago Bulls should take a look at, because he does have a great deal of versatility in his game. He's a guy that you could put alongside Chris Dunn, and because he is a solid three-point shooter and capable of initiating the offense, that gives you 2 ball handlers on the court, 2 guys that can facilitate, that can initiate the offense, 2 guys that are willing passers to get the ball to our shooters like Marketing, Wendell Carter Jr. if they're playing them together, and whomever else we may have on the court at that time. Now, Tarik Evans is a guy capable of starting or coming off the bench, so it would not be unheard of if we were able to keep Zach Lavine and still find a way to add him to our roster as a bench player to go alongside Bobby Portis and kind of solidify our bench. One of the areas of his game that I also like is that he pushes the pace. This is a guy who can get out in transition, can literally get to the basket all the way for himself, or initiate the offense in transition as well. And that definitely would help us out because we're a team that's looking to pace, looking for space, pace and space sort of offense, if you will, and we're wanting to get out and run and get easy transition shots because, like I said, we're a young team. We tend to struggle from time to time with scoring consistently, and one way to get good shots or to get consistent shots is to get out in transition and get easy baskets. So I definitely think he would be an added addition to the Chicago Bulls in the event that we were to bring him in, be it as a starter or as a bench player. Now, I don't know if he is indeed actually on the Chicago Bulls radar. He is already 28 years old, and granted, that is definitely not old. We are a team that's rebuilding. We're in year 2 of the rebuild, and we do have a lot of players on our team that are in that 20, now with Wendell Carter being 19, 19 through 25 range, especially our core group is between that range. So I don't know if Chicago would look to add him to our roster, knowing that when we are at a point when we're ready to make the leap from a rebuilding team to a playoff team and ultimately to a championship team, he'll be well into his 30s. So I don't know if that'll be a downside to that aspect of him adding him. But be on the lookout for him. Another guy that is also on the Bulls' radar for this year's free agent period is Marcus Smart. Now, Marcus Smart's name has been thrown about with Chicago for a number of years. We had Jimmy Butler here, and there was always these rumored trades between the Chicago Bulls and the Boston Celtics. Marcus Smart's name was always thrown into there on seemingly every trade rumor. So it's not a shock to me to know that he is actually on the Chicago Bulls radar now that he's actually a free agent. Um, the things that Marcus Smart brings to the table that would make him a great asset to the Chicago Bulls are just the little things, the things that help you win big games but don't necessarily show up in the box scores. Case in point, for the Celtics last year, he played about 54 games, averaged about 10 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, but his shooting numbers are just, he struggles with that. He shot 36% from the field overall, 72% from the free throw line, and 30% from three-point range. Now, those numbers do not jump out at you and say, oh my goodness, Marcus Smart's a great guy, has excellent numbers. They don't jump out at you at all, but this is a guy who can affect the game in a positive way without necessarily putting up big numbers on the offensive end. Would you love to see his shooting percentage improve? Of course, because that definitely would make him not only a better player, but that would certainly help whatever team he ends up on even more better team, because this is a guy who is an elite defender. He brings toughness to the table. He's kind of a grit and grind kind of player, ultra competitive. I mean, the things that he's able to do on the court to help your team win are things that are diving on the floor for loose balls, diving in the stand to save the ball, to give you an extra possessions. None of that's going to show up in the box scores. Playing solid defense or making the other team's best player on the perimeter work for everything they have to get and making them take tough shots. Those things aren't going to show up on anybody's box scores, but those things show up in the column that matters the most, the win column. And that is why he's one of the players that many people feel is on the Chicago Bulls radar, I myself included. Of course, the shooting definitely could be better. He's been inconsistent with that his entire career, and the numbers reflect that. But I don't know if he's a guy that Chicago will go all in for, simply because when you look at it, a lot of things that Marcus Smart does that helps teams win are kind of similar to the same things that David Nwaba did for us this year, in terms of just being tough on the court, being competitive, bringing energy off the bench, bringing extra effort, being a solid rebounding two-guard. His numbers in terms of his shooting percentage was definitely a lot better. Overall, I believe he shot something like 47% versus Marcus Smart's 36%. So he seems to be improving in that area of his game a lot better than Marcus Smart, but they tend to do a lot of the same things. I think the only difference in terms of on the defensive end, Marcus Smart is already considered a defensive stopper, whereas David Nwaba's upside is that of a defensive stopper. So he's not quite there yet. So Marcus Smart would probably be the finished product of what David Nwaba could be as his career, as his career progresses. So if we do bring David Nwaba back, to me it doesn't seem that we would look to bring another guy like that, kind of similar in that regard to the roster, but you never know. I mean, every championship team needs players like these two gentlemen, and if we do add them to the roster, that would be fine with me. Up next, though, we'll take a look at one Rodney Hood. Rodney Hood started the season off with the Utah Jazz. I believe, coming off the bench. And then ultimately, as you all know, he ended up getting traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers on trade deadline day, if I'm not mistaken. So he played all together between the two teams 60 games, averaged about 14 points, about 2 rebounds a game, shot 42% from the field overall, but shot 38% from the field from three-point range, and 86% from the free throw line. So where he would fit in with the Chicago Bulls, of course, is his ability to score. He can score in a multitude of ways. He's an above-average spot-up shooter. He can score off screens. He's effective in handoff situations as well as in one-on-one situations. And he's also a solid player out of the pick and roll as a ball handler. And of course, he's a solid three-point shooter, I should say. He is capable of playing both the two-guard and the small forward position, also capable of starting as well as coming off the bench. So in the event that we lose Zach Lavine, he could be one of those guys that could actually start for the Chicago Bulls at that position. He would be an added he would actually add value to the team as well, because he's a pretty good shooter from the outside. He's also a guy who can get into the paint in terms of creating his own shot. So he would definitely be a benefit. It would definitely be a benefit to add him to the roster if those were the circumstances that he came. He would continue to, of course, allow for us to space the floor. So that in itself would be an added bonus. So don't be surprised if Rodney Hood is high on the team's radar. He is, however, a restricted free agent, so Cleveland can match any offer that we make. With that being said, that's a wrap for me tonight. God bless you all.